I will introduce us here to Anthony Rogers. And if you like what we're doing here on the official, like and subscribe to this video. That really helps us out and, able to make us kind of get bigger and, put even more better content out there. So appreciate all the love here on YouTube. But Anthony Turbo Rogers is next on the list here. He is been on the scene for, 2 or 3 years now. I feel like I heard this name when he was a sophomore or even a freshman. He's running back 7 on 3. He's the 109 player overall. A bit smaller, 5'8", 191. We've got him with a 74.1-inch wingspan, and he will play his senior year at Carver High School in Alabama. But he previously played at Pike Road, I think in Mississippi is Pike Road, or Pike Road might be Alabama as well. Then went to a year at IMG Academy in Florida and now transfers back to Carver. So 3 schools in 3 years. And Carver is the 52nd ranked team in Alabama with a 22.2 power ranking and a 20.7 strength of schedule. So decent. Isn't that about average, David? A 20 of strength of schedule?
Yeah, it's about average.
Okay, about average for his strength of schedule. Let's flip on the tape here. And so that's him at IMG, number 21. And he's very fast with a max miles per hour, I think close to 22. Yeah, 22.1. So, anything over 22 is elite straight line speed. He is absolutely a home run hitter. Probably going to be a 4.3 guy. That's usually what something like that would translate to. And 75% athlete in general. So he's a good mover, 3-sport athlete, basketball, a pretty good basketball player, I think, also played track. But when you watch him, a lot of these runs and things to me are kind of straight line. He hits a hole and he's gone, but I don't see him create. That's pretty impressive, breaking that angle there of the safety, although it looks like he got pushed out of bounds. But he doesn't seem to create a ton by himself. He can take advantage of holes. He can take advantage of a straight line angle, but not a ton of agility, not a ton of creativity when he's running, in my opinion. He's got decent receiving. So 23, 620, and 27 his year at Pike. And that's pretty good. 36% receiving market share. You love to see that. He was in the slot at that time, but not a ton of receiving, I don't think, since then. But IMG is a weird one. And I'm curious to get David's thoughts on IMG, because I feel like we have scouted guys at IMG before that we didn't really like, and then they turned out to be pretty darn good, like Katron Allen and Carnell Tate. Just the way IMG plays, the way that they utilize their players, like they kind of break the production algorithm because they just don't feed guys. But they do get you ready for major college football. And we've seen guys come out of IMG that we didn't love and then produce pretty quickly. Those Katron Allen and Carnell Tate got on the field immediately and were doing big things for their respective schools. I'd like for you to speak a little. You've got some notes here about kind of his frame. I think you made some comments there. And then, maybe anything that you don't love about Henderson. Or Rogers. I don't think he's a complete product. But there's definitely some stuff to be excited about.
Yeah, his frame is kind of interesting. Like, if Alabama's on you, they probably like your body type, and I know he's visited there and stuff. Like, I remember AJ Allen visited because they were interested in AJ Allen. I remember we really liked his tape, thought he was pretty fun. And but they didn't actually offer him after seeing him in person, after getting his measurable and stuff like that. So I imagine they feel decent about him adding a little bit of. I think he can get around 200 pounds. Like, he does have a +6 wingspan. Some of that is he has kind of like long arms for his size, but he actually has a pretty big trunk on him. I think he can get around that. People aren't going to get super excited about a 5'8", 200-pound guy. Like, he's not going to be a workhorse. He's not going to get tons of carries, especially at Alabama. We already know that they're going to typically give a workload to like this massive running back. So we need him to be a really good pass catcher. And from the last 2 camp reports that I've seen on him is that his ball skills are not as good as we'd like to see from a smaller running back. And that's kind of like the main concern. at the UA Future 50, he gets open, like he gets open easily because he's so explosive. He's super explosive. I want to make sure that's clear. Like he might be one of the more explosive players in this class. Like it's pretty obvious when you put on that tape. But like he does have drops in like one-on-ones and stuff. And then he was just at a Nashville camp recently as well, and he also apparently struggled. It was reported by Charles Power, I believe, from On3. And you kind of have to like read between the lines a little bit because they're never going to be overly negative on something, but if they kind of subtly say like, oh, he needs to work on this, it means like, yeah, it wasn't good. Like his ball, he's like, he kind of needs to work on his ball skills. Yeah, so he probably is dropping passes. I tried to find footage on it, I couldn't find it. So I'll have to watch in like full games and stuff to get a better sense of that. But so if you're going to be a smaller guy, we really want you to be like a really good pass catcher to be fantasy relevant, especially at a place like Alabama. Like if you would go on to potentially transfer somewhere else, like it could be more interesting. But with the information we have now, I definitely I do like him because he is super explosive, and it's just hard to find guys that explosive. But we need to see him improve. Like I was hoping to do 7v7 stuff. I haven't seen any of that. Like a lot of these running backs are getting so much better as pass catchers on the 7v7 circuit, but I haven't seen him posting any like clips from that, or I haven't seen any reports of him doing 7v7. So that would be a great way for him to improve in that area. But I don't know. Maybe we'll get more pass catching and a better sense of it on his senior film. And Carver is going to be moving to 7A in Alabama, which should be a good competition for him. So that'll be really interesting to see how he can produce against that type of competition. We'll see.
Yeah, speaking of production, you have some notes here. This was some good digging. So Quinshon Judkins, who's probably the Devy running back 1 right now, going into the class of 2024 as an NFL rookie, or 2025, I guess it would be. But so he played the same school as Quinshon Judkins. He also played the same school, maybe at the same time as Jarek Gibson at IMG. And you have a note here, at those respective places, he was more efficient than the counterpart, who obviously Quinshon Judkins is great. Jarek Gibson was well thought of. We didn't love him, but he wound up at Texas. I mean, premium recruit, averaged about 2 yards more per carry than either one of those two guys at their respective schools when they were there together. So that's nice. But I would also counter that with his yards per carry has dipped 3 years in a row. As a freshman, he was 10. Then he was like 8 point something, and then he was like 7.7. So that's slightly concerning to me that he's getting less efficient somehow. And you would want a guy like this who's not going to get 30 carries to be like hyper efficient, especially with that explosion. So kind of an interesting, I think he's like a Rorschach test. I mean, do you want to fall in love with the explosion, or do you want to say, there's some big time red flags, lack of receiving potential, some efficiency issues. And honestly, like we don't really know how to quantify it, but sometimes these guys that go to like a million schools, it's just something's up. I don't know. It's like you like to see guys be stable and consistent throughout their career. It remains to be seen. Transferring out of IMG, I'm not sure that's always the best sign. There's a handful of guys I can think of that did that, and they kind of ended up not doing a whole lot later. So I don't know what the reason is, though. I mean, everyone has their own reasons. Maybe it was very legit.
Yeah, could be touches. I mean, he had like 40 carries or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the thing about IMG. No one puts up stats.
I mean, I think Stacey Gage went to IMG, and then I think honestly realized he wasn't very good, and like he wound up at UCF or some G5 school, and it was clear on his tape that he just didn't have any juice. So I wonder, if you go to IMG, you can't hack it. I don't know. We'll see. Like you said, or like I said, there could be a real legitimate reason, but if it was production based or touches based, I'd be more concerned. But yeah, I mean, he's interesting, and it could be one of those guys that gets 2 or 3 touches a game and helps his real team, but not really your fantasy team.